Good evening and welcome, councillors, executive leadership team, community members and council staff to tonight's ordinary council meeting. My name is Councillor Leslie Hewitt and I'm the Mayor of the Hepburn Shire Council. We would like to acknowledge we're meeting on Jara people country, of which members and elders of the Dja Dja Wurrung community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries. On this land, the Jara people have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. As we're undertaking this meeting virtually, I will read on behalf of my councillor colleagues the councillor's statement of commitment to prevent any audio feedback occurring. We, the councillors of Hepburn Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of Hepburn Shire. Due to current restrictions, tonight's council meeting will be conducted virtually. And in the spirit of open and accountable governance, the meeting is being live streamed on Council's Facebook page, and you will be able to view the proceedings of the meeting, councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting is also being recorded and will be made available on Council's website as soon as practicable after the meeting. Should technology problems be encountered and we're unable to broadcast this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned until resolution or postponed until the live stream can be re-established. In accordance with Chapter 6, Section 3 of our governance rules, a person, including any representative of the media, must not operate any photographic, audio or video recording equipment or any other recording device at any council meeting without first obtaining the consent of the chairperson. I also remind everyone that local government decision-making, unlike state and federal government, does not afford the benefits of parliamentary privilege, and hence no protection is afforded to councillors or council officers for comments made during meetings which are subsequently challenged in a court of law and determined to be slanderous. As per ministerial guidelines for virtual meetings, councillors are required to advise individually whether they can see and hear their proceedings and their councillor colleagues, and I will confirm to each councillor whether they can be heard. Councillor Bray, I will start with you. Councillor Bray, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can confirm that I can see and hear you and my councillor colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Bray, and I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Dryly, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Madam Mayor, I can hear proceedings and see and hear all of my colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Dryly, and I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Simpson, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can see all my colleagues and hear proceedings.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson, and I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Henderson, can you please confirm that you can see and hear all of your colleagues?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I can confirm that I can see and hear all the proceedings and see and hear all of my councillor colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson, and I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Halliday, can you please confirm that you can hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can confirm that I can hear proceedings and see and hear all of my councillor colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Halliday, and I can confirm that I can see and hear you. Councillor Hood, can you please confirm that you can see and hear proceedings and see and hear all of your colleagues?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I can confirm that I can see and hear all proceedings and my colleagues.
Thank you, and I can confirm that I can see and hear all of my councillor colleagues. Mr. Thomas, do we have any apologies for tonight's meeting?
No, Madam Mayor, no apologies tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I'd now like to introduce the councillor officers who are present in this council meeting. Mr. Bradley Thomas, the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Andrew Burgess, the Acting Director of Corporate and Community Services, Mr. Bruce Lucas, the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services, Mr. Chris White, our ICT Manager, Ms. Kristen Fort, our Manager of Governance and Risk, Ms. Bronwyn Southey, the Manager of Development and Community Safety, and Mr. Glenn Musto, our Strategic Planner. As required at any other meeting of council, councillors must declare a conflict of interest at the start of the meeting and leave the meeting when the item is to be presented to council. Councillors will be required to leave the meeting and return when the item has been resolved. Through the meeting, if a councillor realises that they have an interest, they can declare it at that point and follow the same procedure. Councillors, does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I have a conflict of interest at agenda item 13.1. It's a general conflict, non-material.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. I too declare that I have a conflict in the same agenda item, 13.1, and mine is a material conflict. Officers that are present, I now ask whether you have any conflict of interest in any of the items presented before council tonight. Mr. Thomas, do you have a conflict of interest?
No, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Burgess, do you?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. No conflict of interest.
Thank you. Mr. Bruce Lucas, do you?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. No, I do not have any conflicts to declare tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Ms. Southey, do you have a conflict of interest to declare?
No, Madam Mayor, no conflicts of interest, thank you.
Ms. Ford, do you have a conflict of interest to declare?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I don't have any conflicts of interest to declare.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Mr. White, do you have a conflict of interest to declare? Mr. White, you're muted.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. Through you, Madam Mayor, I have no conflict of interest to declare tonight.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Musto, do you have a conflict of interest to declare?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I have no conflict of interest to declare.
Thank you. And now officers can turn off their cameras if they wish to. Councillors, I have a recommendation before us to adopt meeting minutes from council's previous council meetings. I have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 20th of July 2021 and the special meeting of council held on the 27th of July 2021, as previously circulated to councillors, be confirmed. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? No, I don't have move. Thank you, Councillor Simpson. You've moved the motion. Councillor Halliday seconded the motion. Thank you. Councillor, Councillor Simpson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Sorry. No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Halliday?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Does any councillor wish to speak to the motion or against the motion? In which case I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand and leave it until I've called your name out. Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday, myself, Councillor Hewitt. Is there anyone against the motion? I'm just wondering if we've got a problem with Councillor Dryeley, Councillor Henderson and Councillor Hood.
I can see and hear you, Madam Mayor.
But you don't wish to vote for or against the motion?
No, I'm abstaining, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay, Councillor Henderson?
As am I, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Dryeley?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Voting for, against or abstaining? Thank you. So I've got 5 councillors in favour. I'll just read that again. Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Bray, Councillor Dryeley, Councillor Simpson and Councillor Halliday. Those voting against? And then Councillor Hood and Councillor Henderson are abstaining. I declare that the motion is carried. Item 6 on the agenda, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion that have been submitted to tonight's meeting. Item 7, items of urgent business. Are there any items of urgent business?
No,
No.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And now we move on to item 8, the presentation of councillors' reports. And I will introduce my report. I just want to say that storm recovery is continuing to be a major focus for the Shire staff. There's a lot of work to be done, and you might be interested, 35% of the Shire's footprint was impacted, which includes 220 of the Shire's roads, 335 residences with damages, houses, sheds, fences, water tanks, and so on. And dealing with this has had a significant impact on Shire staff as they continue to provide the usual council services. Fortunately, state government funding has allowed us to create a storm recovery unit with approximately 8 staff, and this will help. But one of the things that is becoming clear to us is the high level of trauma experienced by many in our community. Council will be providing case support officers to over 300 households and are working with Red Cross and Central Highlands Rural Health to support affected residents. We've had tremendous support from Bushfire Recovery Victoria and will continue to work with them to find solutions to these issues arising from the cleanup. The Deputy Mayor, Mr. Thomas, and I met with Minister Thomas and Minister Schleen from Local Government Minister last week to address and advocate for some of these cleanup problems. The other issue we're facing is COVID restrictions. And whilst regional Victoria is not currently in lockdown, our Shire economy is being impacted, not just by the absences of visitors from metropolitan areas, but in other ways too. For example, our agricultural businesses, artisan agricultural businesses who sell their products to metropolitan restaurants and have had their markets curtailed. We do know that we need to increase vaccination rates to reduce the need for lockdown. Hepburn Shire has partnered with Central Highlands Rural Health in a Get the Jab Done campaign to encourage us all to get vaccinated. We're indeed fortunate with Central Highlands Rural Health and other medical practices in the Shire who are providing vaccinations in line with government guidelines. Our activities this month have continued around getting community feedback on the 10-year council vision and 4-year council plan. And we've had run community information sessions via Zoom. And of course, we would have preferred to do this face-to-face, but restrictions make it not possible. I've attended several mayors and CEO meetings, including rural, south, central meeting, Loddon Campaspe councils, and it's a useful use of my time to understand some of the other issues that are facing other regions and other shires. Finally, you'll be aware of the potential for the Dalesford Hospital upgrade. And if people want more information, that's started. If people want more information about that, they can contact me. Thank you. Councillor Halliday, would you like to give a council report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually don't have a report this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Halliday. Councillor Henderson, would you like to give a report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish to draw attention to the fact that 5 women from the Creswick community have decided to retire from their role catering for events in Creswick after nearly 50 years. Joan Neal, Joan Hepworth, Beth Huntley, Margaret Orr and Norma Clifton started out as 10 women with 10 women who wanted to help their local preschool. Over these years, they catered for many functions with all profits going to local charities. By the process of attrition, only 5 are now left. When we speak about community, they fitted the name given to them by a former Shire president who called them the willing workers. I think we should actually celebrate those sorts of people who work so hard and often unseen in our community. I must also take this opportunity to remind all that some years ago, the Shire declared itself a safe haven for refugees. The terrible events that are taking place around the world with the latest iteration being many displaced in Afghanistan, the bulk being women and children who will be seeking a new life in another country. My hope is that compassion and care can be shown by us as Australian people and that we open our hearts to these people. We speak of the annoyance of having to wear masks, but this pales into insignificance when we see the oppression of a whole population who see no salvation coming their way. These are desperate people, Madam Mayor, and although not within our powers, we should lobby anyone who will listen in an attempt to assist. Once again, I must draw the attention to wandering dogs in Creswick. These dogs are wreaking havoc on domestic animals and pets as well as wildlife. Unfortunately, it's a difficult problem that needs the strongest action taken when we are able to prove ownership. The time for warning should be over. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Hood.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I've tabled my very brief report this month, but I will make some remarks in part similar to yours. The exceptionally wet weather over the past couple of months has slowed down progress with storm cleanup activities. However, Council's initiative to extend the free collection of green waste has assisted greatly. I will take this opportunity to again express gratitude on behalf of the community for the ongoing efforts of Council staff and other agencies to address what is a monumental task. The upcoming provision of free firewood to residents is also a welcome initiative, and we're grateful for the support to fund that program by Ministers Lean and Thomas. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. Councillor Simpson, do you have a report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please see my report as tabled.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Councillor Bray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to say that we've received some sobering news this week on the future of our planet with the recent findings that the Earth could be just 10 years from heating by more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, a threshold beyond which even more serious and frequent fires, floods, droughts, and cyclones are expected to wreak havoc on humanity. This is one of the key conclusions of the most comprehensive climate report ever released, produced by the world's most authoritative body on climate science, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's interesting to note that our community have already told us that the environment and climate action is their top priority, according to the feedback that we've received in our Hepburn Together survey. And it highlights the need for Hepburn Shire to strengthen our commitment to our environment and sustainability goals that we've already outlined in our council plan. I too have been promoting to the community an invitation to come and have a look at our community vision and council plan on our Participate Hepburn website and get your feedback into whether you think the strategies and goals we've outlined have hit the mark. So as part of that, I've put out a video which was a lot of fun to make, and so hopefully people can download that plan, have a look, and send in the feedback via the Participate Hepburn site. This last month, I've also been on the local laws reference groups that have just wrapped up. We've worked on salvaging at the transfer stations and planting on nature strips, and there's a firewood group that Councillor Henderson is on. They've now completed their time, and we have put together some guidelines which will be coming to council in the next coming months. I just wanted to say what a positive experience it's been from both the community and the council point of view of getting everyone in a room together to hear thoughts and work on solutions together. Apart from that, I'm going to, one other point I'll just mention quickly is the transmission lines letter that was sent from council has gone out. I'm sure our CEO will speak more detailed on that in a minute, but just the feedback from the community action groups around the letter of our letter of opposition to Transmission Lines project was very encouraging. They said this letter is a leadership statement.
60 seconds,
Sends
Councillor
a
Bray.
strong message of support to affected communities in the Hepburn Shire.
Thank you. Councillor Dryly.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a report. It's been another challenging month for our community and businesses alike with the COVID-19 lockdowns again. We've, however, been more fortunate than our Melbourne counterparts in being able to move more freely now, but with the consequence that many businesses have not benefited from the trade that our Melbourne visitors bring, and families are still being kept apart. The message that we're hearing loud and strong coming out of this, however, is the need for everyone to get vaccinated and to continue our vigilance when around others to stop community transmission by wearing our masks and being mindful of distances we keep, and also the strict hygiene habits we need to maintain. On another level, the distressing news released in the IPCC report that we're heading to 1.5 degrees global warming by 2030 is a reminder of how important it is to work on and mitigate the effects of climate change together. One event that I was able to attend in person this month was the Creswick Aquatic Strategy pop-in session. We've been seeking community feedback on current aquatic facilities across the Shire to look at future strategic directions and priorities. I also attended an important two-day online capacity training workshop that focused on ways we can foster better outcomes for disadvantaged children and families, agencies and organisations. The workshop celebrated the initiative and resources people have to navigate their daily reality, while also recognising the challenges that poverty and the lack of resources presents in terms of difficult behaviours and different mindsets. I'm also proud that Council forwarded a strongly worded 10-page document to 34 state and federal ministers outlining the shortcomings and significant community concerns surrounding the Western Victorian Transmission Network project. Several key points were raised, including the necessity for infrastructure undergrounding, increased fire risk, the impact on prime agricultural land, heritage and cultural landscapes, local social impacts, and the negative economic effect on tourism. Council believes strongly that the project needs to change direction. We met with key community group representatives during the month to discuss the important issue. Lastly, I also wish to express how sad I am seeing the events unfolding in Afghanistan and send out my condolences and best wishes to families and other people who are affected by these recent events. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dryly. I have a recommendation that Council receives and notes the Mayor's and Council's reports. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Simpson, seconded Councillor Halliday. Does anyone, Council, wish to speak to the motion? Against the motion? In which case I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Keep it up till Councillor Hood, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Dryly and myself, Councillor Hewitt. Does anyone wish to speak against, to vote against the motion? Councillor Henderson.
Madam Mayor, you did miss the fact that I had my hand up and was going to speak against it, but I'll leave it at that, just to say that you did note that we see and note the reports. I haven't seen all of the reports to note. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I apologise for that. So the motion is carried. Could I ask councillors if they wish to speak to or against the motion? If I do miss them, if you'd raise your reaction hand, it is easier for me to see that. 8.3, the Chief Executive Officer's report, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have my Chief Executive Officer's report included in the agenda for this meeting, highlighting a number of items that councillors have already spoken about tonight, particularly the letter and advocacy we continue to do around the transmission lines. And I really just wanted to, a bit of a shout out to remember for the community to jump on our website, hepburn.vic.gov.au, or the Participate Hepburn site, and you get a number of project updates, information on the transmission lines, but all the projects that we're doing, including the community vision and council plan. Great opportunities to stay informed about all the fantastic work that is happening across the Shire on a monthly basis. As I said, councillors, majority of the items have been already covered today in councillors' reports, so I'll take the report as read, and there's an officer's recommendation that council receives and notes the Chief Executive Officer's report for August 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. So I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Henderson. And I've got your hand up.
Yes, that's right. I move the recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We've got a seconder. Councillor Dryly. All those, do you want to speak? Any councillor wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise your hand and keep it raised till I call your name out. Councillor Hood, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Bray, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Halliday, and myself, Councillor Hewitt. We now move to item 9, public participation time, and we have item 9.1, petitions. We have received a petition on the 12th of August 2021, which is in support of the Daylesford Field and Game licence. The report had been signed by 242 people. Over 94 signatures were invalid as a complete address had not been provided, a surname had not been provided, or the purpose of the petition was not included on the page. And so this leaves 148 valid signatures. The petition reads that the loss, and I quote, the loss of a community sporting body, Daylesford Sporting Clays Club Inc., would be detrimental to the all-inclusiveness and well-being of our local and extended communities. We, the undersigned, petition the Hepburn Shire to approve and reinstate the licence to Daylesford Sporting Clays Club Inc. for use of the Glenline Recreation Reserve located in Dysett Street, Glenline, for the purpose of clay target shooting. We know and understand the club is committed to meeting all directives to comply with council and EPA requirements in our ever-changing environment. I have a recommendation that council receives and notes the petition, that we refer the petition to be considered as part of item 12.2, which is coming up tonight, which is consideration of a licence for Daylesford Field and Game Association Inc. for the Glenline Recreation Reserve, and that we write to the head petitioner to advise them of the outcome. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? So moved Councillor Hood, seconded Councillor Simpson. Does any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Then I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Hood, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray and Councillor Halliday. The motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move to question 9.2 questions. Our first question is from Miss Kay Powell. Question is, does the Glenline Recreation Reserve have a current shooting range approval from the LRD? Council's response, we assume by LRD, you mean Licensing and Regulation Division of the Victoria Police. Victoria Police revoked range approval for Daylesford Field and Game Club on the 10th of August 2021 after an inspection on the 16th of November 2020. Victoria Police have outlined the requirements to Daylesford Field and Game that would need to be addressed for future range approval from Victoria Police. Securing this approval is included as a condition of the proposed licence. The second question, also from Ms Kay Powell, regarding the petition tabled by those in favour of the Daylesford Field and Game Club continuing to use the Glenline Recreation Reserve, our one local park, as their shooting range, could you please provide a breakdown of signatures 1, those who live in Glen Lyon, 2, those who live in close proximity to the reserve, and 3, others. And the response is, ordinarily, the names and details of those signing petitions are not made public. The following information is made public. If a petition is received and whether it complies with the governance rules, how many valid signatures, and in this case 148, and what the petition is addressing or requesting, which is what I've already read out. I can add that it's a Hepburn Shire licence, and 130 or 87% of the petitioners were from Hepburn Shire. 51 of those, or 34%, were from Glen Lyon. Should a person request details of the petition, any further details, they can request this information through the Freedom of Information Act 1982. The request would then be assessed in line with the legislation by Council's Freedom of Information Officer, and likely some personal information would need to be redacted. Thank you, Ms. Powell, for both those questions. Question 3 is from Ms. Sarah Micklewright. Read the Dalesford Field and I'll read it out. Read the Dalesford Field and Game Club, the Gun Club. Has the council assessed alternative sites for the gun club, such as those listed below? First, there is a disused quarry near Creswick with no nearby residential houses that could be a new home for the gun club. 2, there is a clay target shooting range near Geelong at Ballyang, which other clubs can also use. The Traralgon Club travel to Ballyang and share it with Geelong. 3, there is a little used reserve at Coinjibora, much flatter than Glen Lyon, and therefore much more easily cleaned up after the shooting. 4, the Clunes Gun Club shoots on the second Sunday of the month and the Dalesford Gun Club on the first Saturday. Therefore, there is no reason why the Dalesford Club could not use the Clunes range on a different day to the Clunes Club. I would suggest that the Clunes Club would welcome the extra income. 5, the Dalesford Club's equipment is stored in a container, and the said container and the adjacent shed would be easy to relocate and not difficult, as one of the councillors stated. There are also clubs at Carisbrook and Bendigo, neither of them far away. And finally, please list the efforts that council's made to source another home for the gun club. And council's response. Our sport and active recreation team have worked closely with the Dalesford Field and Game Club to support the club to explore alternative sites since their activity on Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve was suspended. And this has included referral of the club's queries regarding council services such as planning and building advice, assisting in exploring the use of the existing shooting facilities within and outside the Shire, and provided direct contacts of external authorities and or potential landowners such as GELP, the club, to gain advice on any land use requirements. We've kept the club, council has kept the club informed of any future shooting facilities being investigated within the Grampian regions, have advised Sport and Recreation Victoria, the Grampians region, of the club's situation in case any future regional facility opportunities arise, and generally supported the club through the evolution of the soil contamination project. Thank you, Ms. Micklewright, for your question. Question 4 comes from Ms. Elizabeth Swan, and I'll read this out. In July this year, the Federal Court ruled that the Environment Minister has a duty of care for the future of young people affected by the coal industry. Do councillors acknowledge that they also have a duty of care regarding the pollution of the Glen Lyon Reserve, and that they are personally responsible if they vote for resumption of shooting at the reserve? The Honourable Ray Finkelstein, who heads the inquiry into Crown Casinos, said, "You can commit wrong for a decade of various kinds and come along and say, we'll fix that, so don't worry about it. It's not what the public expects." End of quote. The Dalesford Gun Club have been polluting the reserve for 40 years, and the council proposes a compliance officer for 6 months at ratepayers' expense to change the culture of lack of a proper clean-up. We honestly think that this is what the majority of the public respects. Council's response. Council acknowledges that there's been past contamination of the site and we're working with the EPA to address this. The proposed new licence does include a range of conditions to mitigate against any further contamination, and Council is committed to undertaking site surveillance to monitor compliance. Council believes the community do want Council to ensure compliance with the licence if a licence is granted, and our surveillance will be ongoing for the term of the licence with a specific focus in the initial period of the licence. Thank you, Ms Swan. Question 5 is from Ms Margaret Lockwood. The C7 instrument, I'll read it out. The C7 instrument of subdelegation by CEO to Community Asset Committee, Hepburn Shire Council, instrument of subdelegation by the Chief Executive Officer to the Glenlyon Recreation Reserve, and now I'm quoting, Secretary shall, 8, provide the proposed dates of all committee meetings, including regular meetings and the annual meeting, to the Council's Manager, Governance and Risk via the annual meeting minutes, and make the meeting dates and locations available to the public. Meetings. 2, all meetings of the committee must be advertised to the public, and members of the public should be welcome to attend. A meeting may be closed by resolution of the committee to deal with an item of business of a sensitive or confidential nature. The Glenlyon Recreation Committee is a community asset used by many community members who do not belong to the official user groups. I personally do not know if there are or who may represent the latter. That's Ms Lockwood. So the question is, who are the members of the Community Asset Committee? What is the schedule for meetings of this committee? Where is it advertised to the residents of Glenlyon? And how does this committee communicate information to the residents of Glenlyon? Council's response. Current committee members appointed by Council are Bob Kennedy, Marion Christine Clare, John Cable, Sarah Class, Adam Torrey, Jali Sando, Damien Leonard and Kathy Atwood. The schedule of meeting is determined by the committee in line with their instrument of delegation, and council officers will follow up the committee to ensure that these are publicly published. Committees are encouraged to communicate with their local communities through existing channels in order to reach the greatest number of people, such as newsletters, Facebook groups and notice boards. Council receives minutes from the Glenlyon Recreation Reserve as required by the delegation. And at this point in time, the minutes are not released to the public, which is common across the sector. Copies of the minutes may be requested under the Freedom of Information Act 1982. And our final question for tonight is also from Ms Margaret Lockwood. And I'll read it out. This preamble and then the question. The Glenlyon Recreation Reserve Community Asset Committee supports the issuing of the licence to the Daylesford Field and Game Club. Later in this meeting, councils are likely to vote in favour of issuing the licence. Council's Acting Manager Environment and Waste statement that a council compliance officer will attend the first 6 meetings of the Daylesford Field and Game Club or until a culture of compliance is established. When it returns to shooting at the reserve, I also refer to the above mentioned instrument of subdelegation, which states, and I quote, Use of Volunteers Council encourages the committee to use the services of additional volunteers to help carry out the duties of the committee and engage the community in the use and management of the stated property, end of quote. The rest of the statement refers to advertising, training, and so on. One compliance officer from the council sent to attend the first 6 meetings of the Daylesford Field and Game Club would have serious difficulty adequately monitoring the 6 entrances to the Glenlyon Reserve, type of shot and targets used by each member of the gun club, the shooting hours, and monitoring the cleanup of waste. The difficulty would be multiplied considerably when competitions are held and members from other gun clubs arrive with equipment that may not comply with the conditions of the Daylesford Field and Game licence. Question from Ms Lockwood is, how may I, as a Glenlyon ratepayer, encourage the council to recommend that the Community Asset Committee for the Glen Lyon Reserve advertises for, trains and uses volunteers to assist with monitoring the activities of the Daylesford Field and Game Club to ensure conditions of the licence are not breached and that adequate clean-up occurs. Council's response. Council would welcome any feedback and observations from community if there are concerns about non-compliance with any licence that may be issued. We believe that it is very important to clearly delineate roles and responsibilities around compliance and monitoring requirements. In this case, Council and other agencies do have responsibility for ensuring compliance, and we do not think it is appropriate to appoint volunteers for this purpose. The Community Asset Committee also have a role to play to report concerns and work with councils and relevant agencies. They are required to maintain the assets of council, being the Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve, and officers will endeavour to work closely with all Community Asset Committee members to ensure that all licence holders, not just the Daylesford Field and Game Club, are complying with their respective licence. And that's the end of our public participation time in terms of questions and petitions. So I'd just like to thank all those residents who have submitted questions and encourage people to continue to do so, because it's one of the forms in which residents can let we as councillors become aware of what their concerns are. So I thank the petitioners and also the questioners for their petition and their questions. Item now point 3, we have several requests to address council and we'll go through them in order. Mr. White, the first one that I've got on my list is Mr. Philip Stowe, who's requested to address council regarding the renewal or refusal of the licence for the Daylesford Field and Game Association's use of the Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve. Mr. White, do we have Mr. Stowe available?
Yes, we do, Madam Mayor. I'll just admit Mr. Stowe into the room.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stowe. No, you're not. Oh, I can see that. I can see you. And can you hear me? Stowe? And I can. No, you're not. Oh, I can see that. I can see you.
Yes.
And can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
No, you're not. Oh, I can see that. I can see you.
Yes.
And can you hear me?
Mr. Stowe, if you'll just stop the live stream, which is echoing in the background for the moment while you're talking. Mr. Stowe, if you'll just stop the live stream, which is echoing in the background for the moment while you're talking. Mr. Stowe, if you'll just stop the live stream.
Yes, I've done that now.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stowe. So we can see and hear you, and I presume you can see and hear us.
I can see and hear everyone. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Well, thank you for coming to address council. You have 3 minutes to do so, and I'm going to be very strict. So
Okay.
over to you.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Shire Councillors. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing me to address the meeting on behalf of the Daylesford Sporting Clays Club and its members. Initially, clay target shoots were conducted on various local farmers' properties with great success. The farmers quickly realised the opportunity for club members to help them out with humane control and management of vermin. These activities were a win-win for all concerned: native wildlife, native vegetation, local farmers and club members. As a volunteer-run community club, it was soon realised a home base was needed to be able to conduct events, store and maintain equipment and conduct club meetings. The unused and somewhat derelict Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve was identified as a potential site, and it was decided to approach the Daylesford and Glen Lyon Shire pre-amalgamation. The positive relationship between the Shire and club members very quickly transformed the reserve into a site suitable for the sport of clay target shooting. Since that time, the club has conducted monthly events for participants from all over the state, interstate, and at times visitors from overseas. State and national championships have been conducted when suitable for the club to be able to host them. The club has worked with the Shire and all community groups who have used the reserve over the last 40 odd years. Countless hours of volunteers' work and support from the Shire, making it the asset it is today. From its humble beginnings, the club became affiliated with the Victorian Body for Sporting Clays and the National Body of Sporting Clays Australia. Sporting Clays Australia is affiliated with FITAS, formed in 1921 as the International Body for Shooting Sports Management. Under the auspices of FITAS, countries all over the world conduct national, international, and ultimately world championships each year for various disciplines. Australia can boast male, female, and junior winners of the World Championships for Sporting Clays, plus many placings in team events. All these people have at some time been regular competitors at our club events. Several club members have qualified for and represented Australia at World Championships with great success. The club foundation was and still is based on community spirit and well-being, with an all-inclusive attitude for all genders and people from all walks of life. This is why the club has been so successful for 40 years and can boast up to fourth generation family involvement. And just in closing, going forward, it is the club's intention to continue to use the relevant authorities' best practices and guidance. This includes community involvement, environmental impact and management, latest technology for targets and ammunition, shooting positions for noise management and signage, etc.
10 seconds.
Thank the councillors for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stowe. Does any councillor have any questions of Mr. Stowe? No? Then thank you very much, Mr. Stowe, for your presentation, which we really appreciate, giving the history of the Daylesford Field and Game, or the Clay Shooting Club. So
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stowe.
Now, Mr. White, we have Mr. Colin Johns, the Secretary of the Daylesford Field and Game Association, who's requested to also address us about this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just admit Mr. Johns into the room.
Thank you, Mr. Johns, for attending. Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Johns. We can see you. Can you hear us? No, I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Mr. Johns, we can't hear you.
Perhaps if you take the earphones out.
Yes, try that.
Yep, we can hear you now, Mr. Johns.
That better?
Yes, we can. Thank you for.
Cool.
We can hear
Okay.
you now. Thank you
Very good.
Thank you for coming and talking to council about the history of the Daylesford Field and Game Association in support of issuing the licence. You've got 3 minutes.
That's okay. My submission, thank you very much, firstly, is more a local history of the club. The Daylesford Field and Game Association was founded in the early 1970s. A lot of these clubs were founded at about that time, primarily a hunting club. We then had about 10 or 15 members. Founding members included David Grant Sr., Norm Forkhead, Jim Sanford, Ken Taddy. Money always was being in short supply. It was decided that clay shooting would be trialled to see if that was profitable. So in the late 70s and a few more members, we knew a little bit about shooting and a few hand-loaded traps bought. And with a few farmers giving up a corner of a field, clay shooting began. It caught on well, and the number of sportsmen in the farmers' fields would be 20 or 30 on a good day. I can remember as a young kid picking up the missed clays at properties at Mount Franklin, Mossvale and Moss. But of course, as Philip said before, we had no home. Along came two councillors, Shire President Jack Thompson and Keith Irving, who offered us a very rundown and little used Glenline Reserve, covered in bulrush, gorse and blackberry. Things progressed, and in 1983, with a government grant, the reserve was redeveloped and the pavilion was then built. Signage, fencing and a new brick trap bunker became operational for us. The pony clubs arrived about that time and the Reserve Management Committee was formed. A period of growth followed for both clubs and facilities and competitors' numbers grew. We were also very active in the community as well, raising funds for Tanya Bull with the MS cause. And the fernery at the Botanical Gardens was upgraded with a huge influx of tree ferns donated by us to the Shire. I think you should go up and have a look at that. It's quite something. That was a brainchild of our President, David Grant. Nest box projects for wildlife and raising money for the Ark in Smith Street, also a few of the other things we did at that time. Our sporting clays field was unique and attracted a lot of great shots. It also made us locals and improved on our shooting as well. We had state, national and international placings. Leanne Taylor, David Collins, myself and Jake Johns, the son. I myself have represented Australia many times and therefore Daylesford and Glenline as well. Our membership is now about 45 members, and I'd like to say that clubs like ours are the backbone of any community, bringing diversity and vibrance, and it would be a shame to see any local club close down. The Glenline Club has had a huge member base of locals and non-locals coming and going over a 45-year period. Shooting clubs are always pigeonholed as rednecks and undesirables. And with this short speech, I hope I've shown you a little of the true story. So thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors, for letting me address tonight, and we'll see how we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for telling council about the contributions that the club have made into various other community organisations and spaces. Do any councillors have questions of Mr. Johns? No? Then thank you very much for coming along and explaining to that. That just certainly adds another perspective, and we're grateful for your attendance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person we've got is Miss Chris Clare. Chris is the Secretary of the, Miss Clare's the Secretary of the Glenline Recreation Reserve Asset Management Committee, and she's asked to address us regarding the renewal or refusal of the licence for the Daylesford Field and Game Association use of the Glenline Recreation Reserve. Mr. White, we've got Mrs. Clare there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just admitting Miss Clare into the room.
Miss Clare, we see that you're there. Can you hear us, and can you turn your camera on? Looks like you're muted at the moment.
Yes, Madam Mayor, she's muted.
Miss Clare, are you able to unmute yourself and turn your video on?
Just sent, here she comes. Just sent a couple of requests through the system.
I'm
unmuted.
Yep. Can you turn your video on, or we've got a flower.
I have a cranky, there we are. I have a cranky video.
Oh, there we go. We saw you then. There we go. Thanks, Miss Clare. We can see you now. So thank you. You've got 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the Mayor, Councillor, CEO and others present. I'm the Secretary of the Glenline Reserve and have been for quite a few years, Treasurer previously. Daylesford Field and Game have a historic home at the Glenline Recreation Reserve. The Glun Club with the Sports Club were the virtual caretakers until Pony Club arrived in 1985-86. Between these three clubs and also with Landcare in later years, they have eradicated most of the Gores blackberry infestation and also had sheep and cattle grazing as mowers until a few years ago when Hepburn Shire started mowing the interior areas that had become accessible for their mowers. The sporting clay target shooting is a legitimate, well-recognised activity, and it promotes gun safety at the highest level. The main complaints about the gun club activity are from residents who have arrived in the area well after gun club started shooting 40 years ago. They moved to Glenline knowingly that there were clay target shooting at the Glenline Reserve. The reserve is used by groups who call Glenline Reserve their home, and they pay an annual fee to enjoy this amenity. This is only 4 or 5 days a month, not 30 days a month. The Bio, which enables lots of residents to use it. The BioLink walking track has provided a walking path for all public to use on days when the main area on the reserve is hired. The public toilets and playground are always open to the public during events. All hire days are advertised in the Glenline News. In the Hepburn Shire Draft Community Vision 2.3, it states it wishes to maximise the use of public spaces to increase participation and community connection. This is in 2.34 to 2.36 and 2.37, and all are relevant to the reserve. Unfortunately, the Reserve Committee has not been able to externally hire the reserve for external groups wishing to run clinics or other events due to the EPA rulings, thus no income. Also, another flow-on effect is that the master plan has not been able to be worked upon as moving forward. This is up to 5 years now. We have been trying to get the master plan worked on. The Reserve Committee are addressing the issue of public entry and safety through to the hired area by purchasing locks, gates and chains. These are to be used by user groups only who have the reserve hired under their lease agreement, just like hiring any other public building.
20 seconds, Miss Clare.
I believe that the Shire will follow its due process as Mr. Lucas outlined at last council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Clare, and we really appreciate you giving the Community Asset Committee perspective on this. Do any councillors have any questions of Miss Clare? No? Then thank you, Miss Clare, for attending and giving us the view as the Secretary of the Community Asset Committee.
Thank you.
We've now a request from Mr. Anthony Clare, who's requested to address Council in support of a renewal for the licence for the Daylesford Field and Game Association. Mr. White, do we have Mr. Clare?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just admitting Mr. Clare now.
Hello, Mr. Clare. Can you hear us? You appear to be muted, and is it possible to turn your video on, please?
It is. There we go.
Oh,
you can hear me now?
Yep, we can. That's great. And you've got 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Anthony Clare, and I would like to talk about the opposition to the Clay Target Club at the Glenline Recreational Reserve. I would like to thank the Hepburn Shire Council and fellow citizens for the opportunity to speak today. And I would like to wish to express my concern at the apparently widely held belief that the Glenline Recreational Reserve should not be used for clay target sporting community. In a recent ABC hosted Let's Discuss Issues Within Your Shire, the Hepburn Shire was highlighted, and within that discussion, it was brought to my attention that there was an objection to the clay target community, which I hasten to add I'm not a member of. I live in Glenline, overlooking the reserve itself, and I've been in the area and participated in activities since 1985. And I chose to return to Hepburn Shire to live because of the values of tolerance, inclusivity, and a support for minorities. And upon reading the objection, I came to a conclusion that the objection obfuscates a more troubling agenda by those who have made it. Troubling because it is contrary to these aforementioned values, and as such, I wish to briefly highlight the evidence supporting the objection and refute them as I see it. The evidence falls into four main categories: a breach of local amenity, which has not changed since I've lived here, and is itself subject to the due diligence of people moving into the area to see if the local amenity is compatible with them. Physical contamination of the reserve, and the data gained from the testing shows that the contamination not only falls within guidelines for the grounds, but for the dam area as well. And physical debris should and can be cleaned up by the gun club, but they are under constant reformation to keep up with regulatory standards. And as such, there's no lead shot. We should have biodegradable wads, picking up of shells and degradable clays. The third point's sound pollution. And Mr. Stephen Schutz, an internationally acclaimed and published sound engineer, has stated that the decibel rating and the transient of those decibels, which is to say moving from a low to a high value, resulting from a 12-gauge shotgun, cannot harm unprotected ears in the prescribed public areas or the surrounding housing. It is scientifically safe. And the fourth point that was used was a danger to the public, which is to say nil. There have been 0 cases of harm to the public in Australia at regulated ranges. And to say otherwise is to malign a minority group of people who already follow a rightly stringent regime of laws for the privilege of using sporting firearms. The lack of data to support the claim should highlight a malicious intent, which is designed to marginalise and vilify the actions of law-abiding citizens, which is contrary to the statement that they support firearms sport, because it would seem that they only support it if it isn't here. As stated, I live here in Glenlyon and cannot abide the disregard for those key values that I attribute to the Hepburn Shire. To suit whims, of a vocal few whose agenda, I believe, is divisive and intolerant in nature. So I would say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clare. Does any councillor have any questions of Mr. Clare? No? In which case, I'll just thank you again for attending and putting your argument to us to help us understand the situation going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our final request to address council tonight comes from Ms. Kay Powell, who has requested to address council regarding the Glenlyon Recreation Reserve. Mr. White, do we have Ms. Powell there?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just admitting Ms. Powell now.
Yes. Oh, I think I've just lost myself.
Now we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Can you see me?
Oh, yes, we can see you. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Thank you for addressing us tonight. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and councillors, and thank you, Councillor Simpson, for taking the time to listen and reply to our concerns. Now, you drive 0.7 of a kilometre from the main road along Dysart Street to get to the reserve. In that stretch alone, there are 2 new builds that are now occupied, 2 more being built. The house next to the reserve driveway was up for sale and can be divided into 3 blocks sharing the reserve boundary. 2 more new builds in a side street. 16 houses in Dysart Street, all within a kilometre of the reserve. Many more within a kilometre in other directions. Last month, you voted to allow 19 blocks become 26 at the hamlet. Glenlyon is growing, and that is the sad fact for the gun club. In the local, on the 10th of Feb 2020, a club spokesperson, a Mr. Johnson, is quoted as saying, "We realise Glenlyon today is not the Glenlyon of 1979. There are houses all around the reserve now, and we will probably eventually be forced out." I spoke regularly with the late Jack Johns as he in his 80s raked the track and picked up debris. He said several times to me he thought the club's days at the reserve were numbered. It is bleedingly obvious that the future of the gun club is not at the Glenlyon Reserve. I first spoke at a council meeting 2.5 years ago, suggesting the club start looking for a single person venue. I urged council to help them, and it seems that they have. Now, this is about the venue, not about the club or its history. If licensed club shooters don't participate in at least 10 shoots a year, they lose their licence. So they have been shooting somewhere. Where? Or is it a club where no member has a shooting licence? My main point is that the club and their committee are refusing to look at the reality of what surrounds them, and that is a growing town. Rather than spend $8,000 on an EMP, use it to start the fighting fund. Organise more meetings with council and DELP. Get maps of Crown land and go looking. Make submissions for grants, fundraise, talk to supporters with acreage to see if their support is just noise or real commitment, you know, back to your roots. The Traralgon Club shoots outside Geelong. You know, you might have to travel. Meanwhile, shoot where you've been shooting this year. Look, due to the cleanup and various appeals that it is our right to pursue, it'll be at the end of next year, at the absolute earliest, before the club can shoot at the reserve again. You know, what more can be done to impress upon this group that the time has come to get organised and move on? Now, please don't vote for a quick short-term fix. Vote for encouraging the club, council and DELP to get working together towards the next 40 years of the gun club and a single purpose venue that is necessary to provide that future. And that's the only way this club is going to survive beyond the very near future, having that single purpose place. Glenlyon is just growing too fast. Now, I thank the 1997 people who signed the petition
seconds, Ms. Powell.
who don't live near Glenlyon for their input. Thank you. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Do any councillors have any questions of Ms. Powell? No? Then thank you, Ms. Powell, for coming and giving us your point of view.
Thank you.
Then can I just reiterate the councillors' thanks for everybody taking the time to participate in the process. We'll now move on to item 10.1, which is the planning scheme amendment C82 Hep B, Old Hepburn Hotel, review of submissions and next steps. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Glenn Musto, our strategic planner, to introduce the report. Mr. Musto.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just opening up the report. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. I'm here to present to you with regard to Amendment C82 Hep B, which is the planning scheme amendment for Old Hepburn Hotel. The proposal at that site is for a permanent heritage overlay control for the hotel, being exterior paint controls only. And the amendment has been prepared and exhibited, and following exhibition, there have been 8 submissions of objection received. A key issue that has been raised is the validity of the heritage value of the building. Council considers that the building has been assessed appropriately and its heritage value is relevant and requires protection through a heritage overlay. This recommendation and requirement for protection has led to 2 interim heritage overlays over the last 18 months, which the Minister for Planning has signed off on both times as well, indicating that both DELP and the Minister are in the same or have the same position. Discussions with submitters has not led to a withdrawal of any submissions at this stage. Officers have accepted a request, though, to change the mapping from one of the submitters requested that the mapping be changed so that the overlay only includes the building and the 3-metre curtilage around the building of the hotel and not the entire site. The entire site includes an area where there is a live planning permit for 6, a subdivision of 6 residential allotments. No other submission objections have been supported. The list and the council response to objections is listed at attachment 2. Essentially, the recommendation that council officers are putting to council tonight is that that we request that the Minister for Planning appoint an independent panel under Part 8 of the Planning Environment Act 1987 to consider all submissions to the amendment and to refer all of those submissions to the panel to be appointed by the Minister and including any late submissions. Number 3, to endorse the council officer's response to all submissions to form the basis of council's submission to the panel, which, as I said, is attachment 2 to this agenda item. Number 4, to authorise the Manager of Planning and Development to consider any late submissions before referring them to the panel. And 5, advise all submitters of this resolution and of the next steps. From a in the context of that recommendation, it is likely that the panel directions hearing will occur sometime toward the end of September or early October, and then the panel hearing itself would occur end of October, early November, something along those lines. Are there any questions with respect to this planning scheme amendment?
Councillors, does anyone have any questions of Mr Musto? Councillor Bray.
Mayor, I'm trying to find out how to put up my hand.
All right, I saw you.
Right. Thank you, Mr Musto, for that report. You've outlined a sort of a time frame, sort of later this year before the panel would meet. Then would the amendment, if it is passed or not passed, it would still take some more time. My question is, while that's all waiting to happen, does the owner of the site have any ability to do any work on the building at the moment until something has been decided?
Any work on the building in terms of alterations to the building?
Yeah.
There is an interim heritage overlay in place at the moment. That is an external paint requirement, so it would be similar to the permanent overlay that we're requiring. So the owner wouldn't be able to do anything to that to change that external outlook of the building itself in this period of time as a result of that overlay. There is no requirement as a result of this overlay for internal alterations to the building at all. So the developer would have a right to do an internal alteration subject to complying with other planning laws and requirements, but this heritage overlay would not stop them from being able to do a internal alteration or internal fit out or anything like that. And it also wouldn't stop them from doing development on the other lots that are within the main site or the parent site.
Thanks, Mr Musto. There's also a non-heritage component to the building, a later addition. Would the developer have the right to demolish that section of the building?
Subject to a demolition license, yes, that small section to the right side of the building, as you're looking at it from the street side, is not part of the heritage overlay. It is the main area of the building, which is probably 95% of the building, is subject to that. So yes, they would obviously need to comply apply for a demolition license and be approved on that basis, and also would need to confirm that any demolition that did occur would have no impact on the heritage value of the building that's under protection.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Thank you, Mr Musto. Any other questions of Mr Musto? In which case we have an officer's recommendation. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Bray, seconded Councillor Halliday. Does any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Anyone wish to speak against the motion? In which case, Councillor Bray.
Yes, sorry.
As the mover of the motion, you're moving the officer's recommendation.
I would like to speak to the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I know, but I'm asking you, are you moving the officer's recommendation? Because if you are, I won't read it out.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm moving the officer's
recommendation. Then you can speak to the motion.
Yes, thank you. The Hepburn Hotel is a much loved establishment in the Hepburn area. Our local residents have many fond memories of this pub. They've had many great times and great stories, including myself. But some of the members of the community do worry that this has become a bit run down and it is a bit of an eyesore these days. Other people are concerned that we need to preserve its heritage value so that it can tell us more about our Swiss Italian history. My recommendation, my motion is to move the officer's recommendation to take this to a panel where a panel will hear all the objections and they will make a judgment on the best outcome for this site, whether or not to grant the overlay.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Councillor Halliday?
No, I don't need to speak to the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion or against the motion? Thank you. In which case, I'll put the motion to the vote. What we're voting on is the officer's recommendation as in the agenda. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Hood, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryley, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Bray, Councillor Simpson and Councillor Halliday. The motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Musto.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Right. Item 11.1, Hepburn Hub at the Rex, August update. Mr. Lucas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide a level of information to allow councillors to properly monitor the progress of the project against the project plan. Councillors, there's not a lot to provide updates on this project over the last month, but I will just touch on a few things. So the endorsed project that councillors will be well aware of, and for community viewing this meeting, just to outline that it's a facility that is just over 2,000 square metres with under roof, an under roof facility. It includes a library, a community auditorium space, a co-working space and customer service and council offices. Council terminated the contract with the previous builders back in around mid-July of this year, and following that, officers have now set about undertaking a new procurement process to secure a new contractor. The program's been amended, councillors, to allow for that new procurement process, and the works are now anticipated to be completed around mid next year if council awards a new contract. We anticipate releasing that tender this weekend. That is what we're on track for, and those dates are reflected in the body of the report. Councillors, whilst we will be managing that procurement process, we will be also running a number of site inspections to enable prospective tenderers to visit the site and view the facility in its current form to inform their submission. The other couple of things to highlight that may be of interest that we will be undertaking over the coming month is also reviewing what sustainability initiatives we may be able to embrace in the new contract, and we are currently exploring those options at the moment, and we'll look to provide some provisional items in the contract documents that we put out to tender. There'll be further briefings for councillors on those initiatives over the coming weeks. The other thing to highlight is that we anticipate drafting the terms of reference for the community reference group that council have previously committed to providing, and we anticipate that those terms of reference will come to the September council meeting for council to consider and hopefully endorse, and that will then enable us to call for expressions of interest from interested community members. Councillors, they're probably the highlights of the report. Following the procurement process, I would anticipate that the potential awarding of the contract will be brought to probably the November council meeting. There is a slim chance we might get it to October, but that is increasingly tight, providing sufficient time to do a comprehensive tender evaluation, independent third-party financial assessment on the preferred tenderer and the like. So ambitiously October, but more realistically likely to be the November council meeting. Happy to take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Lucas? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Lucas. Mr. Lucas, are we going to be very, very careful in showing these builders, and I assume their quantity surveyors, through this building to ensure that they have such a contract that takes in all of any defects, whether seen or unseen, in the contract, so that they will have to accept the building as it is and tender on that basis?
Short answer is, Councillor Henderson, yes, we will, and yes, we did last time. However, there were still some issues that we were unable to resolve with the contractor at the time. We have taken steps to review a number of clauses of the contract and also update the plans and the specification documents to ensure that that is as strong as it can be within the contract documents.
Any other questions of Mr. Lucas? Councillor Bray.
you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the update on the chance to maybe look into some sustainability options that may have arisen since the original design was completed. But just to confirm, we are still going out to tender on the original plan of the Rex development. Is that correct?
That is correct, Councillor Bray. The previously endorsed scope for the project is what is still being still used to go to tender, and is still the same design. There are a number of bits that have been reviewed and refined in the contract documents, but broadly speaking, the scope remains as was previously endorsed. And as I said, we'll provide some provisional items for some sustainability initiatives if council wishes to consider them, and we'll consider that as part of the awarding of the contract.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of Mr. Lucas? Then we have an officer's recommendation before us that we receive and note the August 2021 project update report regarding the Rex project, that we note a new procurement process is now being commenced, and that we note that monthly reporting to council and the community will continue. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Hood, seconded Councillor Dryly. Does any councillor wish to speak to the motion apart from the mover and seconder? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? In which case, Councillor Hood, you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. Don't need to.
Councillor Dryly?
No, no, thank you, Madam Mayor.
In which case, I'll put the motion. Can people raise their hand until I call your name out? All those in favour of the motion as read: Councillor Simpson, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Hood, Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday, and myself, Councillor Hughes, and the motion is carried. We now have item 11.2, the awarding of the contract of HEP BU RFT 2021-09 footpath expansion and renewal. Mr. Lucas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for council to consider the awarding of the contract for our footpath expansion and footpath renewal program for the current financial year. It forms part of our capital works program for 21-22. Councillors will have seen in the report that we went to tender on this program of works and divided it into a number of components, and we are recommending the awarding of the contract in 4 works packages, or 4 separate components. And the reasoning behind that was to streamline the delivery of the respective projects and take advantage of some efficiencies around project management, but more importantly, to meet the funding timelines with the grant funding that we've received to enable some of these works to occur, and also to share the economic benefits in these difficult economic times as a result of COVID-19. The grant funding that we've secured or used to secure some of these projects is stimulus money as a result of COVID-19. We put the works out to public tender and invited that through a public advertisement process, and those tenders have been evaluated by the tender evaluation panel. There was a query around the sustainability initiatives within the tender, and just to be clear around that, councillors, there is a 5% weighting in this case allowed for sustainability initiatives for each of the respective tenderers. One of the things we do with footpaths is that we provide some flexibility for the reuse or the use of recycled materials, and particularly around the bedding material of our footpath network. And each of the 4 successful tenderers, should the contract be awarded tonight, I think will take advantage of that initiative. The contract is, as I said, is recommended for awarding in 4 components, and the officer's recommendation is to award the first component, package 1, which is for the Creswick area to Butlers Excavation Proprietary Limited for a fixed price of $70,451.66. Package 2, which is for the Clunes area to Smoothers Concrete Proprietary Limited for a price of $69,302.50. Awards contract for package number 3 to Trentham for a fixed price of $59,062 to On Track Earthworks Proprietary Limited. And the fourth component, councillors, is for the package around Dalesford, and that is recommended to be awarded to Bernie Fleming Civil Proprietary Limited with a value of $69,350.60. And all of the figures I've referenced there are exclusive of GST. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. And does anyone have any questions of Mr. Lucas at this stage? No. Then we have the officer's recommendation as described in the agenda. So I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Henderson and Councillor Hood. Councillor Henderson, you're moving the motion?
Yes, yes, Madam Mayor, I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Hood, you seconded?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Does any councillor wish to, will any councillor wish to speak to this motion, apart from Councillor Henderson or Councillor Wood? Anyone wish to speak against the motion? No. Then Councillor Henderson?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think we do many important things, but one of the things that we do with an ageing population is to improve the connections that enable those, all of our community, but more especially our older and younger people, to be able to walk in safety, young people in case to get to school, and older people to be able to access the various shopping centres and so on that they need to access in a safe manner. I think it's one of the better things we do, and it's one of the things that's very well received throughout the whole Shire. And I do notice there is a bit of a spread around the Shire of these things, and that's been happening for years. As we go out, we extend further and further, and as money allows. So I think it's one of the, as I say, the better things we do, and it does make the Shire and our townships far more user-friendly. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Hood?
I'll just echo Councillor Henderson's comments, Madam Mayor, noting that this is an important fundamental service that Council provides. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor want to speak to it? Against? In which case I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion is moved by Councillor Henderson. It's Councillor Henderson, Councillor Hood, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Dryeley, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray, and myself, Councillor Hewitt. So the motion is carried, and I'm sure the residents living where the footpaths are going to be done will be very pleased, as Councillor Henderson said, to know that. Our next item, item 12.1, is the appointment to the Gender Equity Advisory Committee. I'd like to introduce Mr. Andrew Burgess, who's the Acting Director of Community and Corporate Services, to introduce the report. Thank you, Mr. Burgess.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. Councillors, at the ordinary meeting of Council on the 18th of May 2021, Council endorsed the terms of reference for the establishment of the Gender Equity Advisory Committee. The endorsed terms of reference state that membership will comprise of a councillor as the chair and 10 community members who are committed to working positively to meet the objectives of the committee. The committee will operate with a minimum of 4 members. From the 19th of May 21 until the 1st of July 21, Council called for applications from suitably qualified and experienced community members for appointment to the Gender Equity Advisory Committee. Councillors, a total of 12 submissions were received, and they were assessed against a set criteria. I'm very pleased to advise Council that the quality of those applicants was outstanding, and we have a very, very strong group that were assessed as part of this process. That criteria included, does the applicant convey knowledge and understanding of the needs and issues relevant to gender equity? Does the applicant convey an interest and involvement in local and/or broader community partnerships, advocacy, networks or activities? Does the applicant convey the ability to contribute to the strategic development of gender equity initiatives at the local government level? Does the applicant have direct links to local community populations and or organisations? And the last criteria, does the applicant display experience and or understanding of the role of an advisory committee? All applicants were assessed by a panel comprising 3 council officers, and the 12 were assessed by that panel against the criteria, and all were found suitable. Since the closing of the applications, one applicant subsequently withdrew their application, and 10 applicants were then recommended to be considered by council. One has not been recommended due to exceeding the membership limit. However, that person is also being offered the opportunity to be part of a separate process still in relation to gender equity. Officers will contact both selected and non-selected members to advise them of the outcome of their application once the appointments have been confirmed by council. There is a recommendation before you, Madam Mayor and councillors. The council appoints the following community members to the Gender Equity Advisory Committee for a period of 4 years. They are Miss Linda Polk, Acting Professor Susan Dyson, Miss Mika Pediatitis, apologies for my pronunciation there, Miss Devon Taylor, Dr. Petra Buskins, Miss Lindy Churches, Miss Isabel Dupre, Dr. Michael Veal, MX Mara Max, and Ms. Maya Irrell. Through you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Does any councillor have any questions of Mr. Burgess? Councillor Henderson?
Sorry.
From the previous, that's okay, that's fine. Any councillor have any questions of Mr. Burgess? If not, then we have the officer's recommendation that we appoint those people for a 4-year period of time, 4-year time, to the Gender Equity Advisory Committee. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryly. Does any Councillor Henderson, do you want to speak to the report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I believe that it may appear to some that this is a little bit skewed on the female side of things, and it being a gender equity committee, it might seem odd that there's only one male person. However, when I look at the qualifications of the people who've applied for this and the experience they've had, I'm sure that those women and men on this understand each other. And I'm sure that the women will understand men's issues as much as the one man on there will understand women's issues. So I think that just the balance of people and the appearance of gender has nothing to do with this. It's about the ability to do the job. And I think that all of those people that I've looked at, and I've carefully studied what their qualifications and experience is, I think this will be a great committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Dryly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I think this panel recognises the importance of community expertise, and particularly in this instance, that people may have different needs and power related to their gender, and that these differences should be identified and addressed in a manner that rectifies gender-related imbalances. That comes from the intent of the document. And I'd just like to highlight some of the expertise that of the people that are coming to this panel, and some of their references sample, such as they're a passionate advocate for the value embracing diversity brings to our lives and the need for greater gender equity in positions of influence. Decades of experience in working in community and research settings across sexuality and gender issues. A strong understanding of gender equity from a practice-based as well as an academic theoretical perspective. A world-renowned gender expert, particularly in the field of motherhood. That's just a brief selection of the types of people who will be joining this committee, and they're all coming from our local community. And I'm really looking forward to and respect the place of this panel within the Shire.
Thanks, Councillor Dryly. Councillor Bray, I assume you want to speak for the motion. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Because we've got to go in order. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Bray, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to echo Councillor Dryly's comments, and I think it speaks to the fact that we do have a lot of experience and qualifications and a lot of expertise in our community. I'd just like to thank everyone who has put their hand up to be involved in this committee. It's exciting to see such a strong field, and I think it will be a real benefit to the Shire, to all of our operations, to have this group to advise on these matters, which they're clearly well experienced in. So thanks to everyone for agreeing to be involved.
Thanks, Councillor Bray. So I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, raise their hand. Councillor Halliday, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Dryelly, Councillor Hood, Councillor Henderson. So the motion is carried. And again, I thank thank the people who put their name forth, and I look forward, as I'm going to be the chair of the committee for the near future, in meeting with them and getting this process started.
Madam Mayor, sorry, I had my hand up to speak after Councillor Bray, but I think you assumed that I was preparing to vote.
I do, and the motion's passed. Can I come back to you at another time? I'm sure, and you won't go.
Yeah, I think the other guys, said it all. Well, maybe not, but yeah, it's fine. I just thought I'd say that.
Councillor Halliday. The yellow hand is a better indicator to catch my eye. It's a little difficult at times, and I apologise for that. There we go. All right, we're moving on to 12.2, which is the consideration of the licence for the Daylesford Field and Game Association for the Glenlyon Recreation Reserve. We've heard several speakers tonight about this, but now I'd like to introduce Mr. Lucas to present this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I will keep this relatively short. There has been a fair bit of discussion on this. Just to highlight that Council is considering this item or this report in its role as Committee of Management for the Glenlyon Recreation Reserve. At the ordinary meeting of Council on the 20th of July 21, Council did consider the awarding of a licence renewal to the Daylesford Field and Game Association Inc. and deferred that decision to enable some further community consultation to be undertaken, and requested that a further report be presented to this meeting, the August 21 ordinary meeting of Council. The purpose of this report, councillors, is to provide that feedback to Council and for you to again further consider the renewal of that said licence. Following the resolution, a community discussion group of 10 community representatives and the ward councillor was convened, and that was facilitated by an independent facilitator that was appointed to run those workshops on behalf of Council. The ward councillor was present. A number of council officers also attended, not necessarily to participate, but to observe and to also provide information and answer questions that may have come from the discussion. Councillors, one of the things that still comes up and is raised even as recently as recent days after the issuing of the agenda is, why now? Why is this licence being considered now? The need for Council to consider this licence at this point in time is to enable the gun club, should Council issue the licence, sufficient time to prepare an environmental management plan in order to comply with the EPA requirements, and is somewhat independent of the current clean-up notice that Council is working through and the contamination that will need to be cleaned up that already exists on the site. Councillors, there is a lengthy recommendation within the agenda starting on page 69, and is recommending conditional approval to grant a licence, and it's in 3 parts, and part 1 has multiple subsections to it. I won't read through all of the detail. I'll leave that for councillors to review and consider. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Lucas at this stage? No? Then we have an officer's recommendation, which I'm also not going to read out. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Bray, you're moving a motion. Could I get you to read your motion out?
Yes,
I take it it's not the officer's recommendation. So if you read it out, or if Ms. Fort can put it up, then we can.
Thank you, Madam.
We can see if
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank.
We can see if someone will want to second it then.
Well, I will.
Read,
I will.
yeah.
I have forwarded this very long motion to our governance officer so that it can be put on the screen for people to read. It is based on, in part, the officer's recommendation, but it also has some other clauses in there. I will read the motion, and then will someone second the motion, Madam Mayor? Is that the process?
Yeah, but if you could do that, yes.
I'll read the motion. That council commits to transition the Daylesford Field and Game Association Inc. to an alternate site within a reasonable time frame, and that the club be assisted to move once a suitable site is found. We'll work with the Daylesford Field and Game Association to explore other potential sites and help them apply for state government grants to facilitate both the move and the development of a single purpose appropriate site away from encroaching housing. I'm sorry, I have to stop. This is not the motion. I have sent an updated version of the motion. It's called Final Draft.
Do we have that? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's the motion. Thank you. So I will move the motion that council commits to transition the Daylesford Field and Game Association Inc. to an alternate site within a reasonable time frame, and that the club be assisted to move once a suitable site is found. That we'll work with the Daylesford Field and Game to explore other potential sites and help them apply for state government grants to facilitate both the move and the development of a single purpose appropriate site away from encroaching housing developments so as to ensure the club's future. We'll ensure that if a suitable new site is found, that the licence will not be renewed at the Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve. Requires officers to provide regular 6-monthly reports on the progress of the alternate site investigation. 2, that council approves the renewal of the licence for the Daylesford Field and Game Association Inc. for the use of Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve, the reserve, for a period of 3 years, including special conditions as followed. A, provision for public access control during events, including signage and locked gates at all entrances. B, no use of targets that contain contaminants, and instead only use environmentally friendly targets free of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAH, in line with the International Shooting Sport Federation definition of requirements for eco-friendly clay targets. C, no use of lead shot pellets, and instead only use environmentally appropriate shot pellets for all shooting activities. D, no use of plastic wads, and instead only use compostable wads for any shooting conducted at the reserve, and include in the licence a definition for compostable wads. E, commitment to removal of waste, that is wads, cartridges, broken targets, etc., before another user group or event, or as agreed with the Community Assets Committee, within 72 hours after the Daylesford Field and Game Association event. F, change the hours of shooting to between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. However, timing of setup, pack down and clean up will be as required. G, maximum 12 meets per year. H, if extra shoot days per meet for special shoot events are to be permitted, at a maximum of 2 extra days per year, the licensee must apply to the licensor in writing and must give 1 month's notice to Glen Lyon residents of extra days and times. Sunday shooting hours to be 12 noon to 5 p.m. Shooting will not be scheduled between the 17th of December and the 2nd of January each year, or during the Easter long weekend. J, the licensee to publish and clearly display at the event a set of rules and ensure that club members and visitors read and abide by them. K, activities will be undertaken in accordance with an Environmental Management Plan, EMP, that considers the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, their guidelines for managing shooting ranges and noise from outdoor shooting ranges. L, increased monitoring of compliance by council with provision to terminate the licence for non-compliance following a formal process as detailed in the licence. Note, the licence offered will be a S17-2 licence under the Crown Land Reserves Act 1978. Section 3 requires the commencement of the licence to be subject to, at the expense of, the Daylesford Field and Game Association, the preparation of Environmental Management Plan, EMP, to the satisfaction of the Environmental Protection Authority, the EPA, for inclusion in the licence. And B, compliance with all conditions required by law in relation to their use of licensed premises for the permitted use. Section 4, that council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to execute the licence document for and on behalf of council after execution by the licensee.
Thank you, Councillor Bray, for reading that out so clearly. So you've moved the motion. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Simpson. Councillor Bray, would you like to speak to the motion? Having read that out?
I do, but does anybody else want to speak to it first? As
you get a right of reply. So do you want to speak to it?
I will just say then that the matter of the gun club operating at the Glenlyon Reserve has brought up many very different and opposing viewpoints in our local community. However, this does not mean that we have to have a divided community. It is possible to have opposing views and still find a way to work together. And that was the intention of the mediation sessions that were set up to hear both sides of the argument, to try to work towards a middle ground compromise. From the reports of that session, councillors have heard concerns of both parties and also their suggestions for changes that could improve this outcome. And I hope that this motion sees a way forward for the Glenlyon Reserve and also a way forward for the gun club. We acknowledge that a gun club at this particular site is not necessarily ideal, but that we do what we can to help the club survive. This motion lists many new clauses that will further control the activities of the gun club at the Glenlyon Reserve to protect the amenity for residents, and you've heard me list them. The Daylesford Field and Game Association will have a big task ahead of them to meet these conditions that we've laid down. However, they have given assurances that they are prepared to work towards meeting these conditions. There is the provision for council to terminate the lease agreement if these conditions are not met. This solution may not be perfect, but it is a compromise that I believe takes into consideration the needs of all parties.
Councillor Bray. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just say this motion gives council and the Daylesford Field and Game Club time to find a new place for the club, which council is strongly committed to do. In the meantime, the Daylesford and Field Club are willing to compromise on many issues such as the use of compostable wads, not to use lead shot, shorter shooting hours, no shooting at Easter, or between the 17th of December and the 2nd of January, plus all the other conditions stated in the motion. The motion approves the renewal of the licence, which includes special conditions. Through this motion, the residents objecting to the issuing of the licence have been listened to. Every effort will be made to find a new place for the Daylesford Field and Game Club so that the club can continue to operate in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I've been availed of a lot of different sides to this question, and I assure you I'm well awake on this issue. And I've had a long association, maybe not so many of my colleagues have, with shooting. And by and large, and I would say 99.9% of the people that I've encountered in that experience have been very responsible and law-abiding people. So from that angle, I've got no doubts that the law will be abided by and that people will keep the agreement. And I did hear Mr. Johns and Mr. Stowe, who were very passionate about what had been done in the community. They're not just a gun club who looks after gun club. They look after the reserve, they look after other places in the Shire, and that was something that I wasn't aware of, but it heartens me to think that we have had over a long period of time, over 40 years, we've had that attitude from the gun club. It may seem that the wording of this motion somehow puts the gun club on notice that they're going to be terminated. That's not our intention. Our intention is to do our best to allow the club to be at the reserve and use our best of intentions and of both the club and the Shire to find an alternate. And I hope that alternate can be found within our Shire, because the gun club has been a very, very valuable adjunct to what we do. I think what the Reserve Committee Secretary had to say was telling also, that they obviously work well together. I've spoken to people from the various other user groups, and they say that they're very happy with what goes on there. We've also had a fairly extensive petition, and those people who have come out and said that they support the gun club, even one near resident. I guess it's like living near a train track, Madam Mayor. One can have all the arguments of saying that you buy a block of land near a railway track, you don't ask the train to shift. But putting that aside, we've had a very fruitful discussions, I understand, with Councillor Simpson and the group, and now assisted by our officers. So I think this is a good compromise, and I hope people work together and the community does come together. It can happen, and I think that going forward we'll have a good result out of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Dryly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to recognise this, and before I do, I'd like to thank everyone who's taken the time to write and speak on this important community matter. There's been a lot of correspondence, and I want to assure people that we have taken the time to listen to the different views that have been coming in. The motion before us is not likely to please everyone who are adversely or positively affected by the renewal of this licence. However, I wish to assure the community that Council has given the matter considerable thought and a weight of resources to make a decision that attempts to take in and value the diverse range of community views. It's important to understand that any decision has consequences, and I believe that this motion presents an opportunity to heal some of the pain currently being felt in the community, and also offers a way forward that acknowledges past practices and paves a positive and definitive path for transition and renewal. We've seen through the community panel process that the Glen Lyon community can come together and talk things through in rational and respectful ways. We all need to make compromises and find tolerances for each other in civil society, and we also need to accept that times change, communities grow, and needs and perspectives shift and develop. A resilient community grows stronger together, so I call on Glen Lyon residents to continue to find a common path together, regardless of the differences this issue has highlighted.
Thank you, Councillor Dryly. Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to also, as Councillor Dryly said, thank everyone for the hours and hours they've put into their submissions, being engaged in the community panel, speaking tonight. It really has been helpful for us in getting a perspective on the issue and how everyone's feeling across the community. I do feel that what we have come up with is a good compromise. It does respect how important the gun club was and is to the community, while still working towards trying to find a new home for them where they don't have the issues of being close to settlement. So hopefully, yeah, like Councillor Dryly said, hopefully the community can work together to move forward, and hopefully we can all move to work together to try and find a new home, and yeah, I guess good luck to Daylesford Field and Game in all the applications and preparing to actually start the licence. If I guess we haven't voted yet, but if it is approved, good luck with all of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Halliday. Councillor Hood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will make the observation that this is quite an imperfect and problematic situation, and I do have therefore some reservations going forward. However, I do note that this is a three-step process, and that even if council were to issue a licence, shooting can't resume until an environment management plan is in place and approved by the EPA, and that the site gains range approval. In supporting the motion, I'm falling back on 4 points. One is that there must be a serious commitment by the club and by council to find an alternate site for the long term, that there's ongoing surveillance of compliance with the licence conditions. And I take some comfort in the fact that we've asked for regular reporting to satisfy ourselves on that. The conditions, the technical conditions built into the licence are quite stringent and have been strengthened. And finally, that there's been quite a reasonable and appropriate amount of consultation within the community. So it's on those 4 points that I lean, with some reservations, towards supporting the recommendation, the motion as put.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. Councillor Bray, as the mover of the motion, you have a right of reply if there's been any issue raised in the debate that you feel needs addressing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thank my fellow colleagues for their work on this motion. I feel that we've arrived at something that is hopefully going to be a good solution moving forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Then I will put the motion to the vote. This is the motion as read out by Councillor Bray and that was up on the screen earlier. All those in favour, raise their hand. Councillor Hood, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday and Councillor Hewitt. The motion is carried. And again, I would thank everybody, officers and community and councillors, for their work on this issue.
Can I call for a division on the unanimous vote?
I'm going to have to take that on note.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, a division can be called,
Right.
in which the
Division.
previous vote becomes null and void and the recount.
The recount. So hands up, those who wish to vote in favour of the motion again. Councillor Hood, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Dryly and Councillor Henderson. You got that, Ms. Ford?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I've got 7 votes in favour and 0 votes against.
Thank you very much. All right, we now move on to item 13, Sustainable Environment, 13.1, towards the Zero Community Grants 2020 and 2021. Mr. Lucas is going to introduce the report. I have an item, have a conflict of material, conflict of interest on A of the officer's recommendation, and Councillor Hood has a conflict, general conflict in item C of the officer's recommendation.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Sorry.
Yes.
Have we missed an item on the agenda?
Not as far as I'm. Yes, we have. Sorry, thank you. Very alert of you, Councillor Bray. We have indeed. Item 12.3, the minutes of the advisory committee. Mr. Burgess.
Through you, Madam Mayor. This is a procedural or administrative report. The purpose of the report is for Council to note the minutes and recommendations received from Council's advisory committees. Advisory committees are established by Council and their responsibilities are outlined in their terms of reference. The advisory committees are required to maintain minutes of meetings held and provide a copy of those minutes to Council for review. The confidential minutes and other reports from advisory committees are attached to this report and include the Disability Advisory Committee meeting minutes of 29 March 2021 and the Disability Advisory Committee meeting minutes of 17 of May 2021. There is a recommendation before you, Madam Mayor, or before Council, Madam Mayor, and that is that Council receives and notes the minutes of the following advisory committees: the Disability Advisory Committee, 29 of March 2021, and the Disability Advisory Committee, 17 of May 2021. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Burgess? Or indeed of myself as the chair of the committee? No, in which case we've got the officer's recommendation. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Halliday, thank you. Do I have a seconder? No. Councillor Henderson, thank you. Councillor Halliday, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Henderson.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion or against the motion? Then I'll put the motion that we receive and note the minutes of the Disability Advisory Committee minutes for the 29th of March 2021 and the 17th of May 2021. All those in favour? Councillor Hood, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday and myself, Councillor Hewitt. The motion is carried. Now we get to item 13.1, towards Zero Community Grants 2020 or 2021. Mr. Lucas, Councillor Hood and I are going to have to leave the meeting for different parts of this. In your presenting the report, I think I'm required to leave at this stage, depending on what you're going to say in your report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just give a general introduction if that suits, and then I'll hand over to councillors to deliberate on the item. So in short, the Towards Zero Community Grants Funds made available for community groups to assist in the implementing emission reduction type projects. Council had allocated $40,000 in the current budget. However, there was $16,000 that was uncommitted from the previous financial year, and that's been carried forward to have a total pool of funds in the order of $56,000. In the current nominations or projects that have been put forward, there were 4 projects nominated, and there is a recommendation for 3 projects as per the recommendation in the body of the report and I'll leave the introduction at that point and hand back to yourself, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Lucas. So I've got a motion. I need a motion that Councillor Hood be appointed as the temporary chairman to deal with the matter that I've got a conflict of interest with. So that's moved. Councillor Henderson, seconded Councillor Simpson. All those in favour? That's Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Hood, Councillor Simpson and myself, Councillor Hewitt. Mr. White, if you can put me in the waiting room, and Councillor Hood, if you take over the chairing of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just put you into the waiting room. You're right to go, Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. White. Councillors, the first officer's recommendation we have before us is for the Rotary Club of Daylesford, for the Rotary Daylesford Art Show Energy Efficient Lighting Upgrade to award a grant of $9,921. That is the officer's recommendation. Do I have a motion? Councillor Simpson, and seconded Councillor Henderson. Councillor Simpson, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Councillor Hood.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hood. Just briefly, I think it's good. This art show has been going for quite some time and always been very popular in the community. And I think there's nothing wrong with giving a community organisation that helps itself a leg up. So that's what we're doing. We're not funding the whole thing. We're giving them a leg up, and I think it's money well spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Does any other councillors wish to speak for the motion? Do any councillors wish to speak against the motion? In that case, I'll put the motion to award the grant for $9,921. Councillor Bray, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Simpson, and myself. Motion is passed unanimously. My understanding, councillors, is that that is the only item that Councillor Hewitt has a conflict of interest on. So I believe at this stage we can move to return Councillor Hewitt to the meeting. So moved, Councillor Bray. Seconded Councillor Halliday. All those in favour? Councillors Bray, Halliday, Henderson, Dryly, Simpson and myself moved unanimously. Mr. White, could you please readmit Councillor Hewitt? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. Welcome back, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back, Madam Mayor. We've dealt with the first recommendation as in the papers, recommendation A for the Daylesford Art Show and Energy Efficient Lighting Upgrade. So we'll now move on to item B, in which case we've resolved to readmit you back into the meeting and you can resume the chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hood. So the officer's recommendation would be that the Hepburn Whole Foods Collective, that the council awards Towards Zero community grants funding to the Hepburn Whole Foods Collective for reusable crates for local food system, $1,800. Do I have a mover? I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Dryly and Councillor Halliday. Councillor Dryly, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Madam Mayor, just briefly, I'd just like to acknowledge the important place that Whole Foods Collective have in our Shire in providing some food security around food security issues, providing healthy, affordable food that are somewhat different to the mainstream offerings, and that collectively people can work together locally and have purchasing power as a united force, and that they're a really positive example of community working together.
Thanks, Councillor Dryly. Councillor Halliday?
Just to echo Tim's thoughts, it'd be great to reduce the use of polystyrene and reuse boxes as much as we can, reducing waste across our shire.
Thank you, Councillor Halliday. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Anyone wish to speak against the motion? Then I'll put the motion that council awards Towards Zero community grants funding to the Hepburn Whole Foods Collective for reusable crates for local food system, $1,800. All those in favour? Councillor Hood, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bray, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Halliday, and myself, Councillor Hewitt. We're moving on to the next one. Councillor Hood, Mr. White, can I ask you to put Councillor Hood into the waiting room?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just move Councillor Hood to the waiting room. You're right to proceed.
Thank you. So the next recommendation is council awards Towards Zero community grants funding to the Trentham Sustainability Group for the Energy and Climate Resilient Trentham Initiative of $26,000. Do I have a mover and a seconder? I have a mover, Councillor Halliday, and a seconder, Councillor Henderson. Thank you. Councillor Halliday, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I actually, if someone else wants to speak to it, I'll let them speak to it because I don't know as much as I would like to around the project. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's important that we support groups that are following our mantra of wanting to be more sustainable, and to see, once again, the groups getting out there. They do a lot more work than just this project. They work along the lines of sustainability in a lot of different ways in that community, and I think that to give them a help along with a project that is worthwhile. We tend to hand out small grants to people and they can't do much with them, but this is quite a substantial grant by our standards under the grant program. So it actually gives someone an opportunity to really make a difference. So I commend this to my colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Anyone wish to speak against it? Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour of giving Trentham Sustainability Group for Energy and Climate Resilient Trentham Initiative $26,000. Councillor Halliday, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Simpson and myself, Councillor Bray and myself, Councillor Hewitt. So the motion's carried. Thank you. Mr. White, can you bring Mr. Councillor Hood back to the meeting, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just admit Mr. Councillor Hood back into the meeting.
Councillor Hood, welcome back, and I'd like to inform you that your colleagues have passed the motion to give the Trentham Sustainability Group for Energy and Climate Resilient Trentham Initiative $26,000, which I'm sure you'll be very happy with as your role of the co-chair of the Trentham and District Community Bank. You're also supporting that project. So well done.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to move on to item 14, which is 14.1, the Annual Plan 2020-2021 Q4 Update, April to June 2021. Mr. Burgess, if you could introduce this report, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. The report provides a list of projects included in the annual plan for 2020-2021, and a progress comment has been provided for each of those projects by a responsible officer. It should be noted, councillors, that the annual plan does not include all projects undertaken during the year, and it was adopted in August 2020, and so it does not include a number of new actions or opportunities that were taken by council which were not included within the plan. Some of the projects have been delayed as a result of announcements of government funding. and delays in project delivery which delayed project delivery, and in recent months the result of impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. Councillors, it should be noted that the funding, if required for those projects, will be carried forward and the projects will be delivered by officers in the financial year. By way of summary, councillors, for the plan for the 2020-21 plan, 16 projects have been marked as complete. Three have been listed as not yet started or delayed, and 2 of those relate to construction at the Hepburn Harbour at the Rex, and the third relates to the purchase of some governance software, which will be identified as part of an implementation program of the risk management framework. 3 projects have been listed as not yet due to start, and these were projects that, as per the council motion in March 2021 ordinary meeting, that those projects have in fact been cancelled. 29 projects, councillors, have been listed as in progress and delayed, and I'd like just to make a comment in relation to that to clarify. A number of those projects are ongoing post June 2021 and therefore cannot be listed as complete. And some of those included the Trentham Community Hub, the implementation of the Local Government Act 2020, part of the pavement rehabilitation program, the Glen Lyon Recreation Reserve Community Pavilion. I won't read through the rest of that list, councillors, but it is listed there what those projects are. As I said, it is anticipated that all the projects listed as in progress and delayed will be completed in the first half of this financial year. And a small number of those projects, as noted, as ongoing, including, for example, the pavement rehabilitation program, the Hub for Premier Produce, and identified recreation projects where construction will occur over the coming 12 to 36 months will continue to be ongoing. A complete list of carried forward projects, including budget implications, will be provided to council at the September briefing. And the report, councillors, with those comments is available and attached, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Burgess. Does anyone any councillor have any questions of Mr. Burgess at this stage? Councillor Hood, and then.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. A question for Mr. Burgess, if I may. The comments you made about more material being brought to council at the September briefing, does that include a quantification of what the carryover position is at 30 June?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that will, excuse me, Councillor, yes, that will include being able to quantify that carry forward and consideration of that by council.
Thank you.
Councillor Bray.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that does answer my question, Mr. Burgess. It was any works that are still being completed would be carried forward to the next quarter. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Bray. Does anyone else have any questions of Mr. Burgess? In which case, the officer's recommendation is that council notes the annual plan 2020-2021 Q4 updates and notes that this report will be published on council's website. I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved, Councillor Hood. Seconded, Councillor Dryeley. Thank you. Councillor Hood, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only, Madam Mayor, to note that officers have made a commendable effort in progressing a number of those key projects under difficult circumstances this year, particularly with COVID and with the recent storm events. And at any point in time, there'll always be a carryover from one financial year to another. But I think overall progress is quite satisfying, particularly as Mr. Burgess says, those projects will be completed in the first half of this new financial year.
Thanks, Councillor Hood. Councillor Dryeley?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else want to speak to the motion? Anyone want to speak against the motion? In which case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. Councillor Bray, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryeley, Councillor Hood, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Simpson, and myself, Councillor Hewitt. I declare the motion is carried. Item 14.2, observance of the Melbourne Cup public holiday in Hepburn Shire. I'd like to introduce Mr. Bradley Thomas, the CEO, to introduce the report. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Report before you is for the purposes to consider the Melbourne Cup public holiday to be observed for the entire municipality as the default November public holiday. Traditionally, our Shire has celebrated both the Melbourne Cup Day and also the Ballarat Show Day in terms of splitting the Shire. A number of surrounding councils are now moving away from the show day, given COVID and changing events in that area. This report did come to council last month. Councillors requested we go and do additional community consultation with the schools in the west of our Shire. I've contacted personally the three primary schools, or three of the primary schools in the west, who are all observing Melbourne Cup as the public holiday. Officers believe it was now appropriate for councillors to consider Melbourne Cup holiday being the designated public holiday for across the whole Shire. There's an officer's recommendation that council writes to the Honourable Jaala Pulford, Minister for Small Business, requesting that the Minister make a declaration that the Melbourne Cup Day public holiday will be the standard November public holiday observed for the municipality. Happy to take questions, councillors.
Thanks, Mr. Thomas. Are there any questions of Mr. Thomas? So I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved, Councillor Bray. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hood. Councillor Bray, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to say it was appropriate to ask for the schools to make sure that they definitely were on board. I'm glad we've done that now, and it's good to have the whole Shire on board for the same holiday if we indeed get to do anything on that day in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Hood?
Good. No thanks, Madam Mayor. All good.
Good. Anyone else wish to speak to them? Councillor Henderson, speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do, but I do with a great deal of sadness, because what I do is in an agricultural Shire where agriculture is very much celebrated. To see the flogging of a few horses around a racecourse is not the way I'd like to see us celebrate our children, especially have a day off to see a horse race in deference to going to meet all the animals and other things that happen at our agricultural shows. And I would hope that our agricultural shows, our smaller ones that are still going, do survive, so that at least our young people can go over to Clunes and across to Daylesford to see an agricultural show, because they're on the wane. However, I do support people having a holiday. I hope anyone that has to work gets double time for the privilege. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Are any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Against it? Councillor Bray, any issues raised? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Bray, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Dryeley, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Hood, Councillor Simpson and myself. The motion is carried. Item 14.3, Mr. Burgess, this is the records of councillor attendance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This again is an administrative report. The purpose of this report is for council to receive and note the records of councillor attendance, formerly known as assemblies of councillors, records required to be presented under the provisions of the Local Government Act 1989. Councillors, the report identifies a number of attendance. They are as follows. Date 1st July 2021, Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee meeting in council chambers and video. 12th of July 2021, ad hoc councillor briefing in council chamber. The 13th of July 2021, councillor briefing in the chamber. 20th of July 21, pre-council meeting briefing by video conference. The 26th of July 2021, council plan workshop by video conference. The 27th of July 21, councillor briefing by video conference. 27th of July 2021, pre-council meeting briefing, again by video conference. There is a recommendation there, Madam Mayor, and that is that council receives and notes the records of councillor attendance as detailed in the report.
Thanks, Mr. Burgess. Any questions of Mr. Burgess? In which case, I'm in search of a motion. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved, Councillor Dryly. Thank you, Councillor Dryly. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Halliday. Thank you. Councillor Dryly, do you wish to speak to the motion? No, thank you. Councillor Halliday, do you?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Against the motion? Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour, raise their hand. Councillor Henderson, Councillor Bray, Councillor Dryly, Councillor Wood, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Simpson and myself, Councillor Hewitt. So the motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. There being no other items on the agenda, I just want to thank you for your attendance and thank all those members of the community who participated. I think that I can reiterate the comments that the group of councillors has put a lot of thought and attention into the consideration of the issues on the agenda tonight, particularly the granting of the licence, and I hope that that's accepted and acknowledged in the community as an effort in working together and working cooperatively. There being no other items on the agenda, I declare the meeting closed at 8:27. Thank you, councillors and officers.
Madam Mayor, stop the live stream.